subjected to the treatment of the Einsatzgruppen. So it is not correct what you said then.
Dass das die Annahme gewesen ist damals. Es wusste jeder Mensch, dass oben im Osten getötet wird. Aber es wusste kein Mensch, dass Juden aus dem Reichsgebiet getötet werden. Das habe ich vor 5 Minuten oder vor 10 Minuten hier auch gesagt. Deswegen ergibt sich die
אז מדוע אתה שולח יהודים לליצמנשטט נגד רצון המושל המקומי
in opposition to the wishes of the local governor, who said you were dealing like a horse trader? You could have sent the same Jews to Minsk and Riga, and nothing would happen to them because they were Jews from the Reich.
Aber man hat ja ungefähr die Bräuche gekannt, die im Osten angewandt werden. Wenn man es auch nicht sicher gewusst hat, so hat man das irgendwie, man hat es ja irgendwie, jawohl, das ist der richtige Ausdruck. Und in Litzmannstadt, da hat man es ja wieder gewusst, dass sie im Ghetto verbleiben. Insofern stimmt das, was ich heute gesagt habe, genau mit dem, was ich neulich gesagt habe.
לא, תוציאו אותו מהר. תוציאו אותו מהר.
President of court, take this man out who's shouting there in the audience. Please take him out immediately. Take this man who is doing all the shouting out of the courtroom. Please leave, you are disturbing the proceedings. Interpreter's comment, the man pointed to a concentration camp number on his arm and shouted, "You dog, you dog. You bloodhound." President of court, everyone please take their seats instantly, otherwise we shall not be able to go on with the proceedings. If there's anyone in the audience who cannot take it anymore, he should please leave.
The accused in itself, yes. The quotation first by Mr. Hausner.
This is an exact rendition of this quotation now. It was mentioned before. The accused said in the protocol, in itself, yes. This came from Heydrich. And I heard that the local Jews, they were the ones who are being rounded up. But Jews who were resident in the Reich and are either Reichs nationals or only residents, they are not subjected to the same treatment. This does not apply to them.
Yes, these things are maintained, and I said so 5 minutes ago. This was the presumption. Everyone knew that in the East things are being done, but we did not believe that they were also in regard to Jews from the Reich. I said so in answer to a question by the Attorney General. They knew more or less what was going on in the East. Not everyone knew, but how shall I put it? And then by Mr. Hausner, it was felt, it was sensed.
It was sensed, I see.
Yes, it was sensed, and this also in connection with the people sent to the Lodge ghetto. This also is in accordance with what I said before today.
And it was not difficult to sense this, because since June 1941, Judge Halevi, it says here in the protocol, one knew the customs in the East. I think the meaning is we knew the usages and customs. Wouldn't that be correct? President of court, well, the translation should be, it was known. Mr. Hausner, thank you, Your Honors.
אני הצעתי אחר כך ידע כל אדם. מה? בחלק השני של המשפט ידע כל אדם. ומה?
טוב, אנחנו נתייחס למקום.
מפני ש...
Mr. Hausner, because you will agree with me, it was not difficult to sense it and notice it, because you simply received the Einsatzgruppen beginning with the latter part of June 1941.
Nicht unentwegt, aber ich habe sie erhalten, jawohl.
Okay.
Und man hat auch gewusst, dass im Osten, es braucht ja nur irgendwie eine örtliche Schwierigkeit entstehen. Da sind die örtlichen Stellen sind da sehr rigoros verfahren. Das hat man gewusst, möchte ich mal sagen.
Not right away, but I did receive these reports, and it was common knowledge at that time that in the East, whenever there was a difficulty of some kind, rigorous measures were taken right away. This was known to everyone. This was common knowledge.
Mr. Osler, but my question was, the question at that time was whether Jews from the Reich could also be sent there. Wasn't that the question at the time?
Jawohl, ich hatte ja den Befehl bekommen, Minsk und Riga als Zielstation.
I received the instruction to set Minsk and Riga as final destination stations.
But first you inquired with Nebe and Rush whether they could absorb Jews from the Reich, and when you received an affirmative answer, then you defined the destination points. Isn't that the way it was?
Jawohl, ich habe vorhin erklärt, wie der Dienst wegen solchen Belangen behandelt wurde.
Yes, I pointed out already how this was implemented through the ordinary service channels.
Very well. Now, in the autumn of that year, you saw the Reichsführer at his command post in the east, right?
Im September desselben Jahres...
Nicht September, Herbst, sage ich.
In September that year.
I did not say September, I said in the autumn.
Ich kann es zwar nicht mit dem Datum angeben, aber ich kann die Zeit genau angeben. Es war, nachdem Kiew gefallen war, es muss eine Zeitspanne danach gewesen sein, weil diese sowjetische Kadettenanstalt, in der die Feldkommandostelle Himmlers untergebracht war, inzwischen renoviert wurde. Da war ich mit Müller bei Himmler gewesen, in Kiew, jawohl.
Okay. It would be very difficult for me to pin down the exact time, but I think it was after the fall of Kiev. It was sometime after the fall of Kiev, and I visited him there at the Soviet Cadet School, which was renovated, so I understand that some time had elapsed after the fall of Kiev. Yes, it was in Kiev.
Was that on the same journey when you visited Globotnik, or was that when you went to Minsk, or was it perhaps a special journey?
Ich weiß nicht, ob das überhaupt in Verbindung mit einer anderen Reise gewesen ist. Ich hatte jedenfalls von Müller den Befehl bekommen, nach Kiew zu fliegen, mit einer Transportmaschine der Wehrmacht nach Kiew zu fliegen. Und in Kiew habe ich dann Müller getroffen in der Feldkommandostelle Himmlers, und ich wurde dann mit Müller zu ihm befohlen.
I do not remember whether this journey was connected with any other particular event. At any rate, I had been ordered by Müller to fly to Kiev. I flew there by a Wehrmacht transport plane, and in Kiev I, together with Müller, went to the Himmler headquarters.
What did Himmler want of you?
Bei dieser Gelegenheit hatte ich einen Gesamtbericht über die Auswanderung zu halten.
On this occasion, I was to present a general report on deportation and immigration.
And immediately thereafter, Himmler issued a decree banning immigration altogether.
Das ist möglich, right? Das bezweifle ich nicht, jedoch ob das ursächlich
Himmler decree is dated October 1941.
אז כשאתה נתת לו את
So
הסקירה, ההגירה
that when you gave him this comprehensive report, immigration was still in force, right?
Das weiß ich nicht. Jedenfalls hatte ich den Befehl, die Sachen zu schildern, wie sie waren.
לא,
Hab sie geschildert.
אני שואל מתי זה היה.
I'm asking you
האם
when
אז
it
עוד
was.
ההגירה הייתה
Was this
בתוקף,
at
או
a time when
שהתפנה
immigration was still in progress, or was it after it had been
הימלר לא
prohibited?
קרא לך שתדווח לו על דברים
Himmler certainly didn't call you to report about matters which were no longer topical, which were just theoretical. I assume that you gave the report before he had issued the decree banning immigration, correct?
Das weiß ich nicht einmal. Ich weiß die Zeit nämlich nicht genau. Ich habe sie geschildert. Man kann ja mal nachsehen. Ich weiß nicht, wann Kiew gefallen ist beispielsweise. Weiß ich im Augenblick gar nicht.
טוב, אנחנו נבדוק בשבילך.
השאלה היא כאשר אתה
President of
דיווחת על
court, the
ענייני
question is, when you reported to Himmler about immigration matters, immigration was still in progress then, yes or
Das weiß ich
no?
eben nicht, Herr Präsident.
טוב.
Aber ich kann es rekonstruieren. Ich kann die Sache rekonstruieren, wenn ich weiß, wann Kiew gefallen ist und eine kurze Zeit danach, die notwendig war, so ein Gebäude zu renovieren.
Okay.
Dann hat man die Zeit.
תשובת הנאשם,
The accused
זה
answer.
ייתכן.
It is quite possible. I do not cast any doubt on it, but
היועץ המשפטי, הנאשם, זאת
Question by Attorney General, already translated.
at any rate, I don't know. This was an order. I had, according to the order, to report on the state of things as they were.
Another question by the Attorney General, already translated.
I do not know exactly the date, but this, of course, can be easily inferred from various facts, such as the fall of Kiev, for example.
Now the question by the President of the Court, which has already been translated.
I do not know exactly, but I may reconstitute the situation if I only find out when Kiev had fallen and when the renovation work of the headquarters was going on.
Mr. Hausner, look here, we are talking about the months of autumn 1941, when Operation Barbarossa was in full force, and when Hitler had the intention of raining one single blow on the Russians and eliminating them. I don't suppose Himmler was then in a mood to discuss vain and useless matters with you. He would only summon you to report on something which was still very significant. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Nein, ich hatte mit nichts anderem bei Himmler zu tun, als wie mit den Auswanderungsangelegenheiten.
No, I had nothing to do at Himmler's headquarters, but report on the immigration.
Yes, yes.
הנה חברים מראה לי.
Here my colleague shows me a report of the Einsatzgruppen dated August 1941, which reached you at 4B4 as well, which speaks about operations in Kiev. So Kiev had fallen as early as August at least. You can see it in the document yourself. I suggest that when a lot of the answers are not translated,
Ja, es heißt hier, bei Kiew wurde der Einbruch in die Brückenkopfstellung erweitert. Da wird um Kiew gekämpft. Aber wann Kiew gefallen ist, weiß ich nicht. Wenn ich Erlaubnis habe, brauche ich nur nachsehen im Reitlinger. Da steht es nämlich drin.
כן, כתוב כאן,
Yes, it is written here that the bridgehead at Kiev is being extended. It is pointed out that battles are raging. It is not stated at all when. It is stated here that the battle was raging around Kiev and that the bridgehead had been extended, but it is not pointed out when Kiev has fallen. If I could consult Reitlinger, I can certainly give a much clearer answer to the question.
Go ahead and consult Reitlinger.
Am 19. September wurde Kiew besetzt.
41.
41, jawohl.
Kiev was occupied on the 19th of September 1941.
1941?
Yes, 1941.
Very well, so it was the 19th of September 1941. All right now, so when did you visit Himmler?
So kann das in den Monaten Oktober, November gewesen sein.
I take it was either in October or in November.
Yes. And you will agree with me that when you had this conversation with Himmler, emigration was still in progress and the order banning it was issued by Himmler subsequent to your conversation.
Das weiß ich nicht. Das umgekehrt ist ebenso gut möglich, dass Himmler den Stoppbefehl erteilt hat und jetzt einen Abschlussbericht über diese ganze Angelegenheit haben wollte.
I do not know whether this was the case. It might have been exactly the opposite. That means say that Himmler issued the order banning emigration and simply wanted to have a comprehensive statement
Bei den
thereafter.
vielen Urkunden feststellbar sein, wann Himmler solch einen Besuch hatte von Müller. Mein Name wird nicht aufscheinen, aber sicherlich der von Müller.
With all the spate of documents, it is possible to determine when Himmler was visited by Müller. On the previous documents, my name would not appear, but I'm sure Miller's name had appeared.
An der Stelle Kiew bezogen. Das müsste vielleicht noch leichter feststellbar sein.
And one could also more efficiently determine when Himmler's staff had entered Kiev. I'm quite sure it can be determined quite easily.
All right. Did you know Brack from the Reichschancellery?
Ob ich Brack
B-R-A-C-K?
kannte, das weiß ich nicht genau, das bringe ich durcheinander. Irgendjemanden kannte ich aus der Reichskanzlei, jawohl.
I do not know exactly whether I really knew Brack. I'm confusing certain issues, but I'm sure that I knew someone from the Reichschancellery.
Try to remember, there was only one single time when you were asked to report to the Reichschancellery, and it was Brack who received you and asked you to give up a few trains for his plan to exterminate the insane. Do you remember now that I've refreshed your memory?
Jawohl, das stimmt. Aber ob es Brack war, weiß ich nicht. Irgendjemand in der Reichskanzlei war es gewesen.
Yes, it is correct, but I do not know whether this was Brack. It was someone from the Chancellery of the Reich.
That was the only time that you visited the Reichschancellery.
Yes, as far as I remember, this was the only time I visited the Reichschancellery.
And you were astonished that they are asking you to give up a few trains which you had obtained with so much effort and give it up in favor of the Reichschancellery. Correct?
Ich wunderte mich, dass, ob es die Reichskanzlei war, weiß ich übrigens nicht. Es kann auch die Kanzlei des Führers gewesen sein, das glaube ich eher.
Kanzlei des Führers.
Das sind nämlich zwei verschiedene Gebäude.
Yes, but you, I don't know whether it was the Führer's private chancellery or the Reichschancellery, but your expression was this was the biggest shop in the Reich. Was it?
Wichtigste Laden im Reich.
Der wichtigste Laden im Reich. That was your expression.
Zentralen gewesen. Ich habe mich gewundert, das weiß ich heute noch, dass eine solche Stelle überhaupt von mir einen Zug haben will. Das ist mir bis heute noch unklar.
Okay.
התפלאתי
The
מאוד,
accused answers a series of questions. I was very much surprised at what happened. I don't think it was actually the Chancellor of the State. This was the Chancellery of the Führer. There were two chancelleries situated in two separate buildings.
Here the Attorney General said, well, you said it was the biggest shop in the Reich.
Accused, yes, this was one of the most important centers. At any rate, I was very much surprised at the fact that such office was endeavoring to obtain a train from me. Up to now, it is not clear to me.
I'm quoting something from a document. You were asked, cannot you give me a few of your trains? And you were told, you are here now in the Führer's Chancellery. This is the biggest shop in the Reich. And now this uncle asked me whether he could have a few trains from me. And he was quite friendly to me because he wanted to iron out a few madmen. This is a quotation from you. Now the correct, exact rendition of this quotation, as the official interpreter is reading it from the document. And then he told me, couldn't you give me a few of your trains from your timetables? And I told myself, my God, you are here in this biggest office, in the Führer's office. They've been supervising you from here. This is the most important shop in the entire Reich, and here this uncle asks me whether he could have a few trains, and he's very courteous and cordial because he wants to burn up a few idiots.
The answer is, I do not remember whether I had stated it word for word, but so far as the content is concerned, I must agree that this was correct.
President of Court correcting the translation, it should have been to stoke the stove with a few idiots. Mr. Hausner, Your Honor, I am quite prepared to submit this page as an exhibit, although the accused has confirmed that the contents were accurate. So you did know Brack, and you knew that he was engaged in exterminating idiots, as you put it, and he wanted you to give him a few trains. Now, when was that approximately when you visited the Führer's Chancellery?
Das weiß ich nicht genau. Ich weiß auch nicht, ob es Brack war. Das kann ich nicht unter Eid sagen. Irgendein hoher Funktionär der Kanzlei des Führers war es jedenfalls gewesen, und er hat mir diese Sache auch erzählt.
Okay.
I do not know exactly the date, and I can't state whether this was Brack. I can't say this here under oath, but it was certainly one of the senior officials at the Chancellery of the Führer.
And you will remember that when you came back from that journey on which you were sent by Himmler, then you came back to Himmler and said, Müller, it was to Müller, you told him, Gruppenführer, this cannot go on, this is not the way to solve the problem.
Yes, this is correct.
So this does show some additional initiative on your part, doesn't it? President of Court, where is this quotation from, Mr. Hausner? Mr. Hausner, I shall immediately identify the source of all these statements. And you told Müller that one has to look for a different method.
Jawohl, das war mein Reden immer gewesen. Ich habe den politischen Weg gesucht, den ich angefangen hatte und auf dem ich verharren wollte. Das war mein dauernder Einwand gewesen, auch als ich gegen meinen Willen nach Berlin versetzt wurde.
Okay.
Yes, these were my guiding principles all throughout. I was always in favor of the political solution, which I wanted to continue, and I was still preoccupied with the problem when I was transferred to Berlin against my will.
Yes, and then at that time you told Miller, our people will become sadists if they go on this way. We must find a more elegant way.
Man muss einen eleganteren Weg finden, das ist mir neu, das höre ich zum ersten Mal. In der Aussage habe ich das gesagt, dass die Leute zu Sadisten werden. Das stimmt, dessen entsinne ich mich.
To find a more elegant way, this I do not remember. I do not remember having used the word elegant. I only said that people are being turned to sadists. This is what I remember, but that's about all.
On page 2339, you said that in the circles of the Eastern Areas Ministry, they said that one has to look for a more elegant way than simply shooting. You said, das muss eleganter vor sich gehen. This has to proceed in a more elegant fashion.
Ich kann mich nicht entsinnen, dass ich das gesagt habe, aber das ist möglich.
In the circles of the Ministry for Eastern Territories, I might have expressed myself this way. It is quite possible.
But they did put it this way. It is on page 2339 of the transcript. President of Court, just one moment. Let us study this quotation. Mr. Hausner, and he says, I suppose the circles of the Ministry for the Eastern Affairs said it should be a little more elegant. It was, they did not like the way it was going. President of Court. Well, yes, he says this was an assumption that this is how they may have put it, but it didn't come from him.
Somebody perhaps in those circles said, I must do it more in a more elegant manner. Perhaps they were not satisfied anymore with the shootings. Perhaps this was said by somebody in one particular office, but not by me.
So, did you have any part in proposing a more elegant way?
Ich glaube, das Ostministerium hauptsächlich damals gegen die Methoden der Einsatzgruppen gewettert hat. Das ist aus den Unterlagen, die man so bekam, hervorgegangen. Okay. Aber wer das gesagt hat und wieso, das entzieht sich meiner Kenntnis. Ich jedenfalls nicht.
I take it that it was said by someone in the circles of the Ministry for the Eastern Territories, and this is how they criticized the methods carried out by the operational troops. Somebody might have said it, I don't know who, at any rate I haven't expressed the statement.
President of Court, the East Ministry, that was Rosenberg, wasn't he? Mr. Hausner, yes, Rosenberg. The accused, yes, Rosenberg. And the man who dealt in Jewish affairs in this Ministry for Eastern Affairs was who?
Jawohl, das habe ich anhand der Urkunden feststellen können und ich kann mich auch entsinnen.
Yes, this was Dr. Wechsel. I could have inferred it from the documents, and now I remember it quite clearly.
Did you have any contact with this Wetzel?
Jawohl, mit Wetzel kam ich in Kontakt, und zwar habe ich das entnommen, den Besprechungen irgendwie mit, die nach der Wannsee-Konferenz folgten. Und außerdem ist das Protokoll einer Besprechung hier im Innenministerium von wo Wetzel an der Wetzel teilnahm, ein Sachbearbeiter meines Dezernates. Einige Besprechungen sind hier genannt.
כן, עם
Yes,
בצל באתי במגע,
I came into contact with Wetzel several times, and this was after the meetings held in the wake of the Wannsee conference, and there were certain meetings attended by Wetzel, one delegate from my office, and other meetings.
Was he the one who said that more elegant methods should be found?
Das weiß ich nicht, wer das gesagt hat. Ich kann mich da nicht drauf festlegen. Mir ist nur so gewesen, ich habe das auch nur ungefähr so bei der Aussage gesagt, wie ich das gefühlsmäßig in mir hatte.
זאת גם אינני יודע,
I do not know exactly who said it. I pointed it out in my police interrogation that I didn't know who had said it.
At any rate, you said to Miller one must find a more elegant way because our people are becoming sadists. Did you say
Jawohl,
that?
mein Weg war bekannt gewesen. Mein Weg war nicht der gewaltsame Weg gewesen. Das wusste jeder meines Dezernates. Ich habe davon auch in Wort und Schrift mich geäußert.
כן,
Yes, because my way was not the way of violence of any kind. It was common knowledge in my department. I always explained it to my subordinates in writing and orally.
And therefore Wetzel, in his letter of the 25th of October 1941, this is the same faithful October 1941, it is in document T308, our number 42, he writes there, this Wetzel, that after getting in touch with Brack, this man who wanted to fire the stoves with the idiots, you remember? He reports that they went from the system of shooting over to a system of gassing, and that you, the specialist for Jewish affairs in the head office of Reich Security, you gave your consent for this new method.
Das bestreite ich und werde es auch und kann es auch glaublich beweisen.
זאת מכחיש אני,
I must object to it most emphatically, and I believe that I can prove my point here.
Die Handschrift. Der handschriftliche Entwurf, den bitte
We
ich,
have heard it.
jawohl, ich bitte ihn,
הכוונה היא לכתב היד.
jawohl,
I'm referring to the
ich
handwriting.
bitte diesen handschriftlichen Entwurf durch einen Fachmann untersuchen lassen zu wollen. Ich selber bin kein Fachmann, ich habe es aber untersucht und habe festgestellt, dass diese kleinen Worte, die ähnlich aussehen wie ST und so weiter, niemals Sturmbannführer heißen können und dass mein Name überhaupt nicht draufstehen kann. Und dieser Text des handschriftlichen Entwurfs heißt ganz anders, als wie er dort steht. Ich darf bitten, diese Angelegenheit durch einen Fachmann feststellen zu lassen und dann wird alles ganz klar sein.
כן, אני מבקש עוד פעם
I should like to point out once more that it would be worthwhile that this document be examined by a professional graphologist. I'm not a professional in this respect, but as far as I saw, I could state quite clearly that the letters here SB cannot be there, and it means that this is not Sturmbannführer, but it means something else. I would like this document to be examined by somebody else, and you could see that I was not at all meant in this document.
Look here, the handwriting is not in 996. This was merely a draft. The final draft is in document 997, the final version. And all they falsified and forged was only your name? Who would have done that? This is an official document. It was shown presented to a court, to an international tribunal. You want to stand here and claim that this is a forged document?
Ich habe sehr viel gehört über Nürnberg und deswegen habe ich mir diese Urkunde auch ganz genau angesehen. Das alles sind Entwürfe ohne jede Unterschrift und der handschriftliche Entwurf, worin dem Sachbearbeiter und dann kommt dieses Geschnörkel, da sollte im Reichssicherheitshauptamt passen, selbst abgekürzt passt das nicht hinein. Dann diese säbelbeinige Herunterziehung ist nicht, kann nie ein F sein, obwohl ein F auch falsch angebracht wäre. Die Prüfung dieser Urkunde, dieser Handschrift, wird zweifellos ergeben, dass es weder Sturmbannführer heißen kann, noch dass da Eichmann hinterherstehen kann. Es wird einen ganz anderen Sinn ergeben. Deswegen bitte ich um die Überprüfung dieser Urkunde, die erhebliche Klarheit hereinbringen wird.
אני שמעתי הרבה על נירנברג,
I've heard quite a lot about Nuremberg, and therefore I perused most painstakingly all those drafts which had no signature. When one looks at the scribbled handwriting, one could clearly see that RSHA is not at all meant in this document, and also when we look at the signs here and strokes, it cannot possibly be the letter F. I'm sure if this letter is examined by an expert, it will be crystal clear that neither Sturmbannführer nor Eichmann was mentioned here. Therefore, I should like to request the court to submit this letter to an expert, and such examination can elucidate the court on this question.
President of Court, if we have concluded with this document, then perhaps, Mr. Hausner, I want to ask the accused another question, because we have a printed version, not a handwritten one, and the printed one also says Sturmbannführer Eichmann. Judge Rafeh, it says twice that this is a draft on both documents. Mr. Hausner, perhaps the accused can tell us why did he remember telling this to the court now, and why in his interrogation by Bureau 06, after the interrogation had gone on for several months, he said, and this is on page 2314, that this certainly was a quotation from him, that of course they asked the head office of Reich Security for its consent, and that this consent was given by himself. This is what he said on page 2314 of the transcript of his interrogation in Bureau 06.
Ich sagte wahrscheinlich, ich habe das zusammen zu rekonstruieren versucht und habe von mir aus ja auch nicht von Haus aus abgeleugnet. Denn was sollte ich ableugnen, wenn sich etwas in Wahrheit zugespielt hat? Aber nachdem ich nun die Dokumente gesehen habe und den gesamten Zusammenhang bekommen habe, da sah ich die Sache völlig klar. Und als ich nun neulich hier hörte im Band 17, dass da ein Wort nicht fehlt und das Ganze in das Umgekehrte verdreht werden könnte, wenn man das liest. Ich auf der anderen Seite weiß, dass auf einer anderen Stelle desselben Bandes 17 genau dasselbe noch einmal gesagt wird, zum Glück. Da habe ich mir diese Urkunde nun jetzt ganz besonders mal vorgezogen, weil ich mir sagte, es könnte ja hier auch so eine ähnliche Sache vorliegen. Und dann bin ich draufgekommen, bei stundenlangen Betrachtungen, ich habe kein Vergrößerungsglas gehabt, ich nahm meine 2 Brillen, habe ich gesehen, dass das mit Eichmann gar nichts zu tun hat, nicht einmal mit dem Sturmbannführer zu tun hat.
כן, אני
Yes, I might have said that at the police interrogation. I said it might be the case. I was trying to reconstitute the state of affairs, and I didn't deny anything. Why should I deny things that may be proved up to the hilt that I was wrong? But here, when I saw, for example, that the word nicht was missing in tape 17, and the absence of this word might have given an entirely distorted picture of the situation. But fortunately, the same passage as in this very tape 17. Then when I saw that those tapes were not inaccurate, that those things were inaccurate, I began for hours to examine these documents. I have no magnifying glass, but I took 2 pairs of my spectacles and I saw that this is how it was. There was no trace of Eichmann nor of Sturmbannführer in this particular document.
Yes, you can take as many pairs of spectacles as you wish, but let's leave that alone. First of all, in your statement in 06, you said you did not know who Beck was. Then you said yes, you knew, but you didn't know where it came from. Then you said yes, you did say that. Now you're saying that this is forged. Now, did you not discuss the question of gas at all with Wetzel?
Mit Wetzel werde ich über Gas nie gesprochen haben, denn ich habe mit der Tötung nichts zu tun gehabt. Aber wenn ich das in meiner Aussage gesagt habe, so will ich das durchaus nicht bekribbeln, denn ich habe viel gesagt und war bereit von Haus aus, alles eher zuzugeben, als wie abzuleugnen. Und so, ich habe versucht zu rekonstruieren, diese Angelegenheit. Ich sagte schon einmal, warum sollte ich etwas leugnen, was mir befohlen gewesen ist, und wenn es mir befohlen gewesen war. Aber ich sehe doch nicht ein, wenn ich dann den kompletten Urkundensatz bekomme, dass ich diese Urkunden einer Prüfung unterziehen kann und dann das Ergebnis mir entweder zunutze machen kann oder dass es mich belastet. Ich kann ja dagegen nichts ändern. Ich muss es nehmen, wie es ist.
I didn't
speak with Wenzel about the gas and the killing by gas because I had no share whatsoever in the killing. But if I said that at my police interrogation, then I had already explained that I was rather inclined to reconstitute things and not deny them. Why should I deny things if I had been ordered to do them? I have no responsibility whatsoever for them. But here, after having seen this set of documents, I can reach other conclusions which are either in my favor or are incriminating. But this is all I want to do.
President of Court, Mr. Hausner, when you say this comes from the mouth of the accused, then I think it says here in the transcript that consent was obtained from Eichmann. Mr. Hausner, yes, of course, that's what I meant. Mr. Hausner to the accused. Well, let us sum up the matter then. You knew in Argentina already about the Gerstein report, right? You told us as much.
In den groben Zügen, jawohl.
Okay.
Yes, to a certain, in general outline, I did know it.
And you knew that you would be cross-examined about this document by Bureau 06.
Das habe ich sicherlich angenommen, jawohl.
Okay.
Yes, I had of course assumed it, obviously.
And your first reaction was, this was Günther's job, we had a big fight about this.
Das ist möglich, aber es erhält auf der anderen Seite, dass ich ja bereit gewesen bin, von mir aus alles auf Dienungsdecke zu geben.
Yes, it is quite possible. On the other hand, it was stated that I was ready to take upon myself everything.
Yes, but let us stick to the facts, yes or no. That's what we've started. Now, you remember that you said that you had you had taken a precaution before being asked about it, and that you had a dispute with Günther about the gas business.
Das ist möglich. Ich sagte, ich weiß nicht, ich verwechsle das. Wo habe ich das gehört? Habe ich das erst in Argentinien gehört habe ich das damals in Berlin gehört. Diese ganze Gasgeschichte kommt mir durcheinander.
I do not know. All this is rather blurred in my mind. I'd already pointed it out before. I don't remember where I had heard it, either in Argentina or in Berlin. All this is muddled in my brain.
And you further said in your interrogation that Günther had done this when you were in Hungary.
Ich habe das neulich auch aus Ihrem Munde gehört, dass ich das gesagt haben soll, jawohl.
Yes, I heard it from you, sir, as I'd already explained it.
Luckily enough, it's written down. Now, you further said that you argued with Günther and reprimanded him and told him, "What am I going to say to the chief now?"
Ich habe das letzte Mal schon gesagt. Ich kann mich zu wenig im Detail erinnern, als dass ich jetzt unter Eid klipp und klare Erklärungen geben könnte. Ich habe aber gesagt,
I already pointed out before that I can't remember details to the extent that I could explain them under oath.
Ich habe aber gesagt, dass ich eher bereit bin, und dabei bleibe ich, die ganze Sache auf mich zu nehmen, dass ich es gewusst habe, bevor der Eindruck entsteht, als dass ich es ableugnen wollte.
And as I said, I'm ready to take all this upon myself rather than be accused of extricating myself from it.
President of Court, you keep repeating these declarations, the accused. But I do not wish you to go on speaking about creating impressions here. You were asked a question, you must reply truthfully and no more.
Ich werde von dem Herrn Generalstaatsanwalt in dieser Sache wieder befragt und da habe ich keine andere Antwort drauf, Herr Präsident. Was soll ich sonst sagen? Ich kann nur sagen, ich weiß es. Unter Eid gesagt, weiß ich es nicht genau. Ich kann das nicht sagen.
President of Court, in any event, don't do the Attorney General any favors. This you are not asked to do.
The Attorney General is showering me with questions on it. I have no other reply. What can I answer? I am stating here everything under oath, and I really don't know what answer he expects of me.
However, on page 2346 of the transcript of your interrogation, you said that Günther could not at all have received this cyanic acid business from Müller.
Ich habe wiederholt versucht, die Sache zu rekonstruieren. Das gebe ich ja zu. Ich habe auch wiederholt mich geirrt in meinen Aussagen.
I had repeatedly tried to reconstitute this particular chapter, but I made considerable errors in this reconstruction, as I pointed out before.
President of Court, Mr. Hausner, unless there are some new factors here, I would not want this whole question to be reopened here. There were many questions about this before. Mr. Hausner, this is something new. I have not yet asked about this. On page 2346 it says, Mr. Captain, Günther could not have received instructions about the cyanic acid proposition from Müller either. Is that right?
אדוני הפקד, לא ייתכן שגונטר היה לו עניין זה
It's not the accused, it's a quotation. I've given it.
It had already been translated. Translate from the Hebrew, it's much better because then there is a conformity
it flows directly.
But
He
then
quotes.
it stops.
No, he quotes.
Jawohl, ich kann dazu nur sagen, dass ich hier versucht habe, die Sache zu rekonstruieren, um Aufklärung zu geben. Das Das geht aus dem ganzen Absatz der Seite 2346 hervor.
כן, זאת תוכל רק לומר
Yes,
כאן.
I can reiterate that I tried one way or another to reconstitute this particular case in order to give satisfactory explanations. This, after all, transpires from the relevant page.
Now, during the interrogation, you were shown the article which appeared in Life. President of Court, Mr. Hausner, if you are going over to another sub-chapter, I suggest that we interrupt here. Judge Rave, I have one question about document T308. The explanation for the initials NDHM, which we find in the second passage, page 10. It is in handwriting at the bottom of the page. NDHM are the initials. Mr. Hausner, where is it, Your Honor? Judge Rave, at the bottom of the page. Judge Rave, if it is not clear, I am prepared to point it out to you, sir. Mr. Hausner, yes, I see it. These 4 letters in handwriting? Judge Rave, yes. Judge Rave, perhaps the accused can explain this? Mr. Hausner, this of course is the draft, Your Honor. President of Court to the Sergeant at Arms. Show the accused the photostatic copy, this one.
Ich habe diese 4 Buchstaben auch gesehen und versucht, sie zu erklären, aber es ist mir nicht möglich gewesen.
I have also seen these 4 letters. I was trying to find an interpretation therefore, but I wasn't able to do so.
President of Court, all right. We shall stop now. The next session this afternoon at 3:30.